I work as a food delivery driver during my first few years of college. Mainly, I would drive for DoorDash or Uber Eats. I did not like making small talk with strangers and didn't want random people in my car, so I preferred delivering food over being a normal Uber driver. I did this for over a year with very much no issues, aside from the occasional customer mad at the restaurant, messed up their order. Anyways, it was a late Wednesday night and I didn't have any classes in the morning, so I decided to make extra few boxes and deliver for a little bit. I did 4 or 5 quick orders and ended up about 20 minutes from my door. It was about 1 a.m. now. I figured I should probably end it there and head back. The way the delivery apps work is very much you just drive around and wait for a random order to pop up, and then it will give you an estimate how much you will make and how far it is. Then you either accept it or decline it. On my way back, I left the app running just in case there was a really quick delivery nearby. I got a few requests, but they were a bit too far and didn't seem worth it to me. But then another one popped up just as I was pulling into my dorm. It was about 12 miles away, but the payout was really big. I had never seen anyone offer that much money before. I gave it some thought as it was pretty far, but it was too much money to pass up. I accepted the offer and started the direction to the restaurant. But a few minutes later, I arrived and pulled up their order so I can make sure I pick up the right stuff. As I walked through the doors, I noticed the customer had only ordered 2 items and the total was only over $6. This was really unusual as typically the high paying orders are because of the large deliveries of expensive food. This meant that they were just giving me a really big tip. I got the food and went back to the car. During the drive there, I was really just trying to understand why they would give such a big tip for such a small order. It was a little weird, but honestly, I just came to the conclusion that it was either just a mistake or they were trying to be kind. Although 12 miles wasn't too far for my campus, I had actually never been to this area. It was really nice, but mostly gated off neighborhood, communities and huge houses. Luckily their house wasn't gated and was able to just pull into the neighborhood. I looked at the homes and passed by and realized that the tip money made a lot more sense now. The street was long though, and I was just a couple minutes from the house when the customer sent me a text through the app. They told me to make sure I delivered the food to the right address when I pulled up. I figured maybe the map showed his house neighbor's house or something, so when I arrived, I sent him the text with a description of the house and asked if that was the right one. He replied no, and I waited for a little bit, expecting him to describe the house for me, but he never did. But I sent him another text describing his neighbor's house, to which he replied no again. I was starting to get pretty annoyed with this guy and tried calling him instead, but he refused the answer. It would ring a few times and then he declined the call. I looked at the address again and then copy and paste into the Google to try and looked it up there. Doing this, I actually noticed that the number of the address wasn't a regular number. It had the subset of numbers on it. I never seen this before and wasn't even sure what it meant. So I searched the address on Google. I looked at the results. When I zoomed in on the map, I saw that the address actually pointed to a spot right between the 2 houses. Zooming in further, it looked like there was a really small garage, or maybe in a shed. It was barely visible. I looked up from my phone and moved my eyes to between 2 houses, and sure enough, there was a small garage-like structure. It was just a few feet from the main house that my delivery app brought me to. I honestly wasn't sure what to expect or why someone would ever live there, but I already came this far so I wasn't about to walk away now. So I got out and started heading over. As I walked up the driveway, I could clearly see what the place was. It was pretty much just a large storage garage, probably meant for keeping an old car or something. I didn't see any normal door though, so I put the bag down by the garage door. As I began taking my phone out to take a picture for the app, a man came around the right side of the garage. I looked over at him and he just stood still, staring at me. The guy was really creeping me out, so I said, "It's right here for you, sir," as I pointed at the bag and slowly started walking away. Then he replied, telling me that this wasn't where he wanted me to drop it off. I turned around and noticed that he was still standing in the same spot. Sorry, where did you want me to put it?" I said, starting to get really uneasy about the situation. He pointed around the back of the garage and said that the door was over there. At that point, there was no way I was going to follow that guy to whatever he was trying to get me to go. I just kind of stood there for a moment, then said sorry and quickly walked back to my car. I looked over one more time before driving away, and the man was walking back behind the garage, but he left a bag of food. I got out of there and drove back to my room, shaking the whole way back. Something about that whole thing felt very off, and the fact that it was in a really nice neighborhood made me even more confused. The more I thought about it though, I realized just how strange it was that he needed to specify for me not to deliver to the main house, and that they refused to take the food unless I followed him to behind the garage. I never had to call the police before my whole life, and I ended up not calling them this time either, as I really wasn't sure if maybe it was just him. It was just some weird, harmless guy. Anyways, it freaked me out for a few days, but eventually I got over it and continued doing deliveries. In my spare time, nothing else happened, though. A couple weeks later, I had another big order pop up on my app, and the area of delivery was the same. I obviously declined it, but I help but think about how I ended up accepting that order and what happened to them during their delivery.